So yeah, this week I did a double feature for the movies we're talking about, and
Double
it was
feature for both of us, dude.
nice. Yeah. So it's funny how it worked, and I even wanted to pray and thank the gods that this is my opening bit was. When you go to the cinema and they ask you, do you want it for an extra dollar? Do you want to butter your popcorn? And I, a cheapskate, say no, and I get the margarine dispenser. So I'm there, I'm buttering my popcorn. I've had a couple White Claws, and the guy next to me goes, "Oh my God, it stopped working." And he was saying that out loud. Like, he wasn't saying it to me. It was just because he was frustrated. And I look over and I go, "What's your show time?" As I'm buttering my pop. "What's your show time?" And he goes, "It was 5 minutes ago. I'm here for the special event screening of Phoenician Scheme." And I go, "All right, man, take my butter machine." He goes, "Thank you." And I'm like, "No problem." To which I say, "Hey, man, don't stress. Remember, 5 minutes late these days is only 15 minutes into the credits. Like, you're good." And he laughed and he agreed. He's like, "Yeah, it's a special screening, so I don't know." And it's like, special screening means extra captive audience. They're definitely going to hit you with their Toyota Camry commercial, their Ozempic commercial, then 5 trailers for a bunch of other A24 movies. Like, you're fine. I give this guy a mini therapy session. Then he goes, "What are you seeing, by the way?" And I said, "The Ballerina. I can wait." Big laugh, walked away. That was it. I'm like, what a great bit. So welcome back to the Talkies.
I wasn't the only one that was late to the Phoenician Scheme then, because I was late today when I went to go see it. It was the first part of our double feature. And I was like worried. Like, I'm never usually late. I'm always there even before showtime. But I had to get a bag to Ashley, friend of the pod, Ashley. I had to get a bag to her, so I had to meet her there. And so I was like 10, 15 minutes late. And I was like, even though I know, we've talked about this 1,000 times, and I know, but I was like, whatever, like, I don't like being late, and I still gotta, I was 15 minutes late, I still had 5 minutes to spare, and that's like 15 minutes late. I went and got snacks still, I grabbed my stuff, got into the theater,
buttered
and
your popcorn.
Also, well, so this is the thing, you're like, oh, when you get asked what, like, if you want extra butter on your popcorn, I probably haven't been asked that in like 5 years, because I literally go into the same bit every time. Combo number 1, layered butter on the popcorn, Coke Zero. I just nail that just like that. And that's my go-to order. Occasionally, if I go to the theater a lot, I'll get nachos just to mix it up. And if I go with Kevin now, right, we get our theater glizzies, but... yeah, that's my standard kind of like move order. And yeah, like I said, 15 minutes late, I still had 5 minutes to spare before that movie even
real
started.
quick, because this is a bit now. With the Cine Club members, Cine membership.
Cine Club membership.
Yeah, the Cine Club membership makes a glizzy like almost $4.
Yeah,
which
it's like
is like
4 or something. Yeah,
prime rate for a hot dog. And I got one for the Venetian Scheme. As we'll get into, wasn't enjoying it, but about an hour in, I felt this warmth radiating from my coat pocket, and I was like, oh, a forgotten theater glizzy? And I...
forgot a glizzy in your pocket for an hour?
Because it was stayed warm in the foil, and I was eating this bucket, and I had my White Claw. I had my drink, my White Claw, like my Diet Coke, my White Claw, my popcorn, and the glizzy. When people were, chopping it up on me for having to go pee during Mission Impossible, I sat through this less enjoyable movie, in my opinion, with 2 drinks completely fine and a glizzy I forgot about. But
glizzy in the pocket kills me. So you just raw dogged a plain glizzy for that?
No, what I do, and this is dangerous because I've ruined one jacket, is I condiment it up, and then I make effort to roll it back. I used to work at Subway, so I was really good at rolling up like cylindrical sandwiches, basically, and glizzies are similar. Yeah, so I would wrap it back up all condimented, and only once of like 4 times I've done this have I found dried mustard in the inside of my coat jacket. So it's pretty viable. It's kind of a good move.
I want everyone that's listening to know we did not pre-plan to talk about this. Today, I started bringing, because I have a dill pickle seasoning that I make at home. I don't like make the whole thing, but what I do is I have a dill pickle seasoning I like, but it's not bitter enough for me. So I like a little like tart, like I like dill pickles, right? So it's got the dill pickle flavor, but I mix salt and vinegar into it. So then I get the best combo, and I put some in a little container, and for the first time ever, I brought it with me to the theater today. I fucking spilt that shit all in my fucking bag, dude. It was everywhere. It looked like I had done cocaine or something. It was just exploded in my bag. And so I just zipped it back up, and luckily, like all my essentials, it was fine. But I had to clean that out when I got home today. But
I feel no. Heck the Venetian scheme. Heck it. As the formal micro content manager of this pod, I gotta say, let's keep it going. I feel like popcorn seasoning. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Like and subscribe. Drop a bell.
I'm a mandatory popcorn. I never get it when I go to Cineplex because I refuse to pay for it. But I always have it when I make it at home.
See, here's my thing. At the young age of whatever, 12 or 10, I was like, what a cool gimmick. But yeah, I see straight through that gimmick, man. I love a buttery, margarine-filled substitute popcorn, and I think it's disgusting to season popcorn. I'm really glad you and I differ on this because I feel like this is a keystone.
Dude,
Disgusting.
you're putting fake. I don't even think margarine actually is too classy for whatever the hell that is.
It's a molecule away from butter or from rubber, and that's the way I like it. This all started because we're talking about getting the self-serve margarine pump on your popcorn versus the $1 to layer your butter in. Yeah. And if you're smart, real quick, this is a clip too. If you're smart, when you go up to those little margarine pumps, you put a straw in your bag so it like filters all the way down.
Are you on TikTok, bro?
Whenever I see a guy or a girl do this at the theater, I go, "Oh, another savant."
The same algorithm.
Compared to the last few theater experiences I've had, where we were joking last week, where I had letterbox savants ruin the movie, where they would go, "Oh, because that's a theme about grief" in the middle of the movie. The person I see with the straw in the popcorn bag, that is the tip my feather cap to you moment where I'm like, you get movies. You get me.
Or just don't be broke and just pay $2 to have it layered in your large popcorn. That's my hot take. And also, saying seasoning is disgusting is the most childish take you've had.
It is, bro. It's childish to like seasoning.
No, it's not, dude. That's a little flavor. I do think it's weird when people like layer Skittles in it. Or like they'll put M&Ms and stuff. I find that odd. But
I
like,
think that's fine. If you Skittles is unhinged, chocolate
bites.
is good.
Yeah, I don't want both at one time, but that's
chocolate and popcorn go, but Skittles is unhinged.
But I don't pay for when because it used to be way back in our day when we were young pups. They used to just have the shaker cups all the time, but now they're like,
yes.
We're losing money on the shaker cups, so then they just start. It's like $1.50 or something. I feel
real
for
quick
like a little seasoning packet.
Classic podcast moment here, where I argue with you to the death, and then the last 30 seconds, I agree with you on every point, and then just go, it is what it is. Because I used to love seasoning when it was a shaker at the thing. I would overdo it all the time, and I think it's just the prejudice of my dad, who would be the guy refilling our popcorn bags with the infinite refills, the AMC 30s and Cineplexes used to provide. And he'd be like, you've ruined the next batch with sour cream and onion and ketchup seasoning. Our third refill tastes like swamp water, Brandon.
You have not learned that you make more money than you had when you were a child, I feel like, is your... Like, even today, like, the fact that I think of you in moments that are, like, related to brokenness of, like, today we were like... Sam, I didn't have a drink for the first movie, and I had my energy drink. So I was like, well, here, man, just use my cup to get a free refill. You can have your drink, and I have my energy drink for the next movie. And I said, make sure to get the cup replaced, because my friend Brandon, on his third refill, had the bottom give out on him. So I was like, but I love that that's, like, how you manifest that. But, buddy... Let me just say, like I said, you can afford the $2.50 for the layered butter, okay? You can afford, to get, you can ruin the popcorn bag because it's going to be okay.
I saw an article the other day that made me cry a little bit, that $100K a year is the new broke. And I'm like, and they say
especially in Toronto with your rent prices out there.
The only way to not be broke making $100K a year is to spend like you only make $50. So by that metric, I'm avoiding the trap. But I said this to a few people. I got the Cine Club membership on your advice, and I've saved, I think, like $37 in a month since getting it.
That'll add up, brother. Yeah.
It adds up. It's like 20% on cassette because I see so many movies. I tell people this, and they're like, oh, you got this scam where you pay $100 a year? And I was like, no, bro. It's paid for itself in 4 months.
Well, like, it literally pays for itself. Like, honestly, if you are someone that watches all the movies or even half of the movies we talk about.
Like, we probably watch 2/3 of all movies that ever come out.
Yeah, you need to get this membership. It gives you a free ticket every month, which covers the cost of the membership just there. 20% off everything. It gave me 20% off of my buckets. my Mission Impossible bucket. That would have
Yeah.
been like $60. I paid whatever 20% off of that is. But like,
and your limited edition Disney Marvel Plus cups
like
as well.
it's-
I collect
it's
these mothers.
The glizzies, dude, like everything. Knock 20% off those $1.50 seasoning packets, dude. No, I it's a must-have for anyone that if you go to the movie 12 times a year, it's worth it.
Yeah, once a month, it's worth it. Anyways, I like how people on, I think it was a couple Sundays ago, we posted how The Accountant 2 came out on Prime Video. And people were like, oh, are you being paid by Amazon Prime? I was like, no, dude, just genuine enjoyers. And now people are probably going to be like, did Cineplex pay this to you?
Oh, trust me, dude. There's not enough. Cineplex could back up the money truck. They could give me a golden membership that would give me free movie tickets for life, and I would refuse it until they accepted some rules. We have no PSAs about theater etiquette in Montreal because they're too cheap to put French ones out. It's
You know how
killing
many
me.
times-
It's killing me. I'm not a Cineplex guy. I hate them.
For this bit, I wanted to pull my phone out and record the "Don't be a Sally scroller" or whatever, just for the bit, so show you that we have them. But then I'm like, no, because then I become a Tommy texter.
Yeah.
And I have my phone out, so. But anyways, I hope anyone who's stuck with this episode, a true fan, all four of you out there, you've heard, what are we, almost 10 minutes into the Venetian Scheme, and we have not talked about it. We've just talked about the
We
average theater going
mentioned it a
rates.
couple times.
Yeah. So to clip this back, so the Venetian Scheme.
Well,
What'd you
okay,
think
by
of
the
it?
way, I don't want to come down hard on you, but it sounds like you're saying Venetian Scheme?
Well, I deal with Venetian blinds.
Yeah, that's
I went to the Venetian Hotel in Vegas.
Phoenician.
Yeah.
That one's been killing me.
So the phonetic Phoenician Scheme.
Phoenician Scheme. Yeah,
Also, off air, every time I've texted Shea about this movie, I say the Wes Anderson joint. I don't dare spell Phoenician because even autocorrect
I
is
wrote
like,
it.
did you mean
This
Venetian?
day, I don't know that I wrote that correctly. I wrote it
Yeah.
down in my notes, and I don't know that I nailed it. But
Oh, it's like it might be behind me, but
I
anyways, yeah, so
think,
Phoenician Scheme.
yeah, so Phoenician Scheme. We're gonna move past this one fairly quickly because I think you and I are fairly aligned on this. But I had a bit of a revelation leading up to it. I knew nothing about the movie. Wes Anderson. Okay, I'll go. But then I was talking about it with Kelsey, and I was like, man, like thinking about his movies because Kelsey and I saw Asteroid City. I think was his last one.
Yeah.
Didn't love it. Like we enjoyed it enough while we watched it. I've never thought about that a moment since, basically. And so we went back and we pulled up the filmography, and I think there's one movie on there I adore, and it is the Grand Budapest Hotel. I adore that movie. I have the Criterion. I love it. I liked Isle of Dogs. I liked but I don't think about them. They don't stick. It's just, and this totally fell into that camp for me of like, yep, that was fine enough. Like I enjoyed it enough while I watched it. Like, but when I talk about, like last week we talked about a lot, like, feeling, and like, I want to feel. I don't care if it's joy or sadness or whatever. Anything in between those, I just want to feel something, and
Yeah.
I didn't ever really feel anything in this movie.
I felt so little that I started to hate, and that's a dangerous line. Like to what you're talking about, like I saw Asteroid City in theaters with the same guy I saw this movie with, and I at the time I was like, I took a bit of a break from Wes Anderson. Like I didn't see French Dispatch in theaters. I saw when it came out on streaming. I'm like, it's good, but I saw Asteroid City in theaters, and I think I enjoyed it more because there's a little bit more crowd audience to laugh along, and I think there's a little bit more of a story there, like not a ton. But like you, I had a roommate in college who showed me at a cottage Wes Anderson's Grand Budapest Hotel, and I was violently high. So you see, he gave me so much like weed edibles that I think 30 minutes in, it was so symmetrical, and we were all thrown in film school. I like threw up like violently because I was like, the symmetry was making me dizzy. And then I revisited it later with him like the morning after, and I was like, wow, what a like tasteful, what a unique. That was like my intro to Wes Anderson. And every movie I've seen after that, and again, like some of the animated stuff, like was it The Fantastic Mr. Fox or Isle of Dog? I've watched a fair share of his filmography, And it's all like good, you know. None of it's bad, and I think objectively, it's all very artful and like it's a unique voice. But watching this movie, especially after the Ballerina from the world of John Wick, you know, I don't know, I was ultra critical, and like you said, I felt so little that there's a few times I was rolling my eyes at some of the lines, and you know, I don't want to ramble, but if you've been on Instagram lately and you say I'm terminally online, which I love, but there's like this millennial core meme, right, where it's like we're not like other millennial burger shops. We have, you know, $32 truffle fries and man buns and tattoo sleeves with a forest and mason jars. Like, Wes Anderson is kind of the hipster millennial of filmmakers, and I feel like when you're watching some of, you know, this movie especially, the jokes are kind of like, well, that's so random, haha, XD, you know, and it stands out when you watch a lot more contemporary stuff that it's still uniquely his like style and voice and creativity and camera work. Like, they're all pretty top notch, but the story, every punchline and every moment, just it was kind of undercut by like, isn't that random? Isn't that obscure? Look how obscure we can be. And it didn't work for me. On like the 9th movie of his I've seen in my life, I was just like, I don't care anymore, Wes. Like, so I want you to say more because I feel like I'm kind of peeking out.
Well, I love there's a fascinating thing that I'm going to continue to observe as we do more of these episodes together, where it's like when Brandon is, if you can just make Brandon interested enough in your movie, he's going to be okay. But if you make the kid bored, he's going to destroy your fucking movie, okay? And I think between, not that we need to move past the fucking monkey, dude, I swear to God, but I can't help but bring the parallel in. But I don't disagree really with any of that. Like the humor I maybe worked for me a little bit more, but like, again, not in any way that impacted my viewing experience.
Yeah.
Like, It was like, huh, you know.
Can I stop you there and start clip farming? But my hot take that I want to clip farm here is, I think Wes Anderson movies are starting to age similar to the MCU and Marvel properties. And, you know, you might go, wow, what a bold take from such a stupid looking guy. However, I would say when you see an MCU movie and somebody shows up and says some obscure stuff, you go, oh, it's a reference to the comics. Oh, or they'll have a celebrity cameo. And I feel like watching this movie in particular, when you see Bryan Cranston show up at that like kind of funny scene where they're playing basketball on the train tracks and stuff, it was kind of like obscurity on top of obscurity. And again, like watching Grand Budapest for the first time, putting that at like so high up on my nostalgia list of his filmography, and then watching this, I could see the DNA. Obviously, they're very clearly related properties and brothers, you know, in this analogy. But yeah, when you see Bryan Cranston show up, say a few lines, play some basketball, make jokes, and again, this is where I talk about the millennial core humor that doesn't age as well to a Gen Z audience, where they're playing basketball and, you know, the joke is kind of like, lol, sport ball, haha, you know, and it's like, when you're a grown 30-year-old person, or man, whatever, I want to say 30-year-old man, when you have friends like that still, you know, I'm not even a huge sports guy, and I learned enough so I don't sound like that cringe core millennial that's like, sports, I don't know, my thing, you know. And I got that self-entitlement sense from some of these scenes, and that one's particularly, again, Bryan Cranston shows up, a joke is made, and there's like an applause break. And same thing later, the biggest laugh, the biggest applause break in the movie, and I think like this is the thing, I think they introduce applause breaks to Wes Anderson movies the way they've done with the MCU, is when Michael Cera does the reveal in the late second act, early third act, where he's like, oh, hey, I'm actually not a German scientist. I'm Michael Cera from, I forget where, but he's like a normal guy. He's no longer this uptight nerd.
Yeah, he's
American.
Cool.
He's American with a pop collar. He's a double agent. I rolled my eyes so hard. And then everybody around me laughed, and I was just like, is this what an MCU hater felt when Andrew Garfield showed up in Spider-Man No Way Home? Or MCU haters didn't exist when, you know, the Falcon said on your left and appeared in Endgame and came through the portal. That is iconic and amazing. I'm just saying Wes Anderson is kind of like, he's circling the drain of like, oh, I'm that cool creative voice from this style and generation. Because for me, as somebody who's grown up through it, through my 20s to 30s, I kept finding applause breaks where I didn't care. And even though there's a lot of technical excellence on display, I couldn't bother to care because I know they're just going to interrupt something they were doing with something more obscure, funny, and random within a few minutes anyways. And I don't care.
I gotta say, the reason why I wanted to do a podcast was because I wanted to, like, I like to keep my reviews, like, light on spoilers and give just kind of an impression. Is this movie worth your time? Do I think it... did I enjoy it enough? Would I recommend it? That's kind of how I do it, and I like to use
Forgot
this...
to keep that spoiler free, my bad.
No, that's okay. It's I think you're fine that way. I just meant more that I wanted this to be able to talk about the movies in depth and long form. And my favorite part about that moment was that you started that by saying, I want to create a nice clip for social media. And then we talked. I let you go for like
8 minutes later. Yeah.
8 minutes on that. But I mean, listen, I'm going to be very honest. I think you're reaching very harshly and very far on that. I don't think the intent of those moments are the same. Like I, for example, the Bill Murray one in this movie, I feel like that part would have existed and happened with or without Bill Murray. It's just because of that it was Bill Murray. So where I
disagree. I think
no,
they're like, let's call back to the other filmography.
Because the Marvel stuff is very much like, member this, member that. I don't think I'm going to give Wes Anderson the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that was at all the intent of that. But I don't want to get lost in this either. Like, I feel like I feel frustrated a little bit by the fact that it's one of the few movies, and I don't know, like, in the last episode, we had talked about, like, transition movies between, like, you know, just kind of generic, you know,
gateway
easy,
movies.
Accessible, and then, yes, things that
they get you hooked on a style or a theme or
that can send you down a rabbit hole to, like, you know, deeper, more artful cinema, you know. And I feel like I'm trying to pick my words here a little bit carefully, but I feel like Wes Anderson, I feel like occupies that space a little bit because he clearly, there's so much intent behind all of those things that he does. Like, in no movie is it more clear, and this could be a pro or con to you, is it more clear that how much thought went into every aspect of this, from costumes to framing to set design to all of this, because it's so meticulously clear. Like, he goes for the visual language of this movie is very clear and very distinct and obvious. It's obvious. Like, again, you talk about the symmetry. There's like, again, it's obvious. I'm sure there are other movies where people put as much or more thought into all of these placements, obviously, but it's just is so clear in this movie, and so and his movies writ large, and I feel like that's great. I like seeing that. It's interesting to know that that's happening, I guess, but this is where the impact on me feels really lost, because like, I could tell a Tarantino movie is a Tarantino movie, but it's not, because every movie Tarantino makes is Kill Bill, you know? And Wes Anderson, for me, it's every movie, at least that I can recall and think of, is a Wes Anderson movie, because it's, I don't want to say the same movie, but like, if you
it's a reskin.
Well, and even saying a reskin is like, because they look so similar, even, right?
I do want to very briefly argue with you, because you're like, oh, this is the most decorated, most unique film of his in a while.
No, I did not say that at all. I mean him as a filmmaker. It's obvious all of the thought that goes into the visual component of movie making. This is not any more or less than any of the other ones.
I thought you meant of his filmography, because I was just about to veto that and say,
no.
I'm like, the Grand Budapest Hotel, I think, is like the gold standard, and maybe it's our bias, is the gold standard for his style look and just nailing it.
Yep.
But I feel like when you go in expecting Grand Budapest, you kind of get that to different degrees, and by the fourth or fifth movie where you're like, okay, it's the same kind of formula, same kind of thing, I just don't care. And like I'd say my biggest insult is also a backhanded compliment, because I would say, like, if I were to type into ChatGPT or Google with VO3, like the AI, make me an hour and a half Wes Anderson movie, it could do it like frighteningly well, I feel. Because
I disagree. Those exist also, by the way. You should look them up because I promise you it will make you like make you like this movie more as a consequence.
All right, because my thing is like lately I've been seeing the Google AI generate sitcom clips, and like all like the captions and social media around it are like, this shouldn't be so funny, because sitcoms are kind of like a low bar. And I genuinely think seeing this Wes Anderson movie after a decade of him kind of making the same movies with the same like excellence, it's really worn off for me. If we had like 5 Top Guns in 10 years, I would also say I'm tired of seeing a reluctant hero rise to the odds. You know what I mean? And like the Karate Kid came out, we're not even talking about that, but that's also a movie that follows like the Rocky formula. But the Wes Anderson formula, like you said, Tarantino's a great comparison, because his movies, one could argue, a real movie hater could argue, it is all kind of similar to Kill Bill, but it's so varied in style and approach and pacing. But the pacing, I think, in this new movie is wildly the same, and it kind of snaps beat to beat, moment to moment. Dialogue A, dialogue B, joke on the first person. Back and forth, joke on the second person. Whole scene nullified by result of the conversation being a visual gag that whatever they're talking about is irrelevant, or something's happened while they were talking, and it's just like whip pan after whip pan. And like, again, it's good filmmaking. It's excellent filmmaking. I just, when I was saying earlier, my backhanded compliment that's really nice but also heavily mean was just like, I think because it's so distinct, I think the AI could recreate this stylistically, and I think half the jokes would be about half as good, but still. And here's my kicker.
Go, because I need to go off.
My kicker, and this is more my closing bit. When the movie ended, and I was surrounded by a bunch of people who were like, I love Wes Anderson, I was like, oh boy, can I not wait to hate on this movie. And my buddy who I saw it with, who I think is like better than I, was still like, it was whatever. I was like, if you're saying that, it's a big deal. All these people, all these seals clapping their hands together. And I say this because this is the conversation I had leaving the theater. I overheard. At the end of the movie, the couple in front of me goes, that was so great, one of the best of all time. It's a little crazy, but so good. And then the guy's girlfriend says, yeah, I think I zoned out because I don't remember a good chunk of it, but it was so good. And I just think that's the Wes Anderson effect, where it's riding on good credit and people are clapping their hands going, wow, what a stylistic art house film. Which it is, and there's a lot of excellence, but it's like the same movie reskinned since Grand Budapest, and that's where I don't care anymore. Like, that's my bit.
Even before that, I would argue, and I think like I agree, kind of writ large on that. Like, it's the same. They all feel very samey in my brain right now, and it doesn't elicit any real feelings from me. Like I said, the only pushback, like I want you after to look up the ones, because this was low hanging fruit for the AI people, specifically because of what you said, because his style is so distinct and clear. I remember like early on when this AI stuff was starting, and they're like, Wes Anderson does Lord of the Rings. Like, there's a lot of those videos. They're terrible. They do not capture the spirit. And like, that to me is a perfect case of like why AI as a generative form for movies is terrible. Like, the more I see of this shit, the less convinced I am that it's any good.
I agree. I'm just saying,
but I
hate it so
understand
much.
your spirit of like, he's derivative of himself. And like, there was a moment, like, again, Sam never knows what movies we go to see, so he knew the name but he didn't know anything else, and I told him it was Wes Anderson just before it started, and I wish I just didn't, because it would have been funny for him to be like, I would have asked him after, like, at what moment did you instantly clock that this was Wes Anderson, right? And again, it's very clear, like, I don't. Yeah, it's a remarkable 2.5 for me. It's totally mid. There's enough technical stuff there, like I said, that's cool, but it loses its charm after a 20-plus year career at this point of that stuff. Like,
his short film
I'm losing
that won
it.
the Oscar. He had a short film that won the Oscar a couple of years back, last year even, I think. And I think that was excellent, because his format, his style, it's there, but it's in short. And when you do an hour and a half or 2 hour long version of something you've already done, it's kind of like it loses the grip, you know? I don't know if there's anything I want to see Wes Anderson do to break away from this. Like, you go for the name, you go for the style. But, like, I think, like The French Dispatch, when that came out, I was kind of pooched and I didn't see it. It's like every other Wes Anderson movie I'll support in theaters. Because, I guess to close out, small bit here. To close out, I would say when I went to Niagara College for broadcast and film production, my third year was really instrumental because I had a teacher. His name was Luke. He taught about, it was his first year. He's a little new to teaching, but he had some really great lessons that I've always kept with. And one of them is the rule or the law of contrast and affinity. The more alike something is, the more boring it is, the more contrasting it is, the more it might be too different or like contrasting, right? So you want to balance contrast and affinity, be that with like a theme, be that with like visuals or color palette or something. You got to find a way to make things cohesive, but not so cohesive they become nothing. And this movie was cohesively this quirky offbeat thing where everything was lol, that's so random, you know, Michael Cera's thing, the kids shooting the arrow thing, like just all these bits just felt like, well, of course, because that's just so crazy, right? Like, and I think like even when I've done my own like music videos or whatever, I'm not saying I'm a masterful filmmaker, I would just have a bit where it's like, okay, well, you know, there's a lot of slow-mo for the demon girl dancing next to the band, but the band is very fast-paced. So it's the contrast of the slow-mo versus the fast footage that makes this entertaining to watch for 3.5 minutes. Now, I think with a Wes Anderson movie, it's so quirky, it's so contrastingly different and weird that it forgets that now is cohesive. It is now the same product for an hour and a half. And there's never a beat or a moment that feels like real or grounded. It's all this kind of like hyper visual stuff. And that's where it lost me. I think some of the highlights are when our character like goes to heaven and he talks to God and it's very ethereal. I really like that because he went from this kooky dream world that he lives in to like a plane beyond existence that was kind of like that bit from Friendship where he's talking to his friend at a subway in a dream. It felt more ethereal than the rest of the movie that felt very non-tangible, not real, you know? So I wish they had more moments to either slow down or speed up a lot, but the pacing of the movie just felt very like Princess Bride almost. Like there's always a scene where it's like somebody exposits something, they have a tiff, they exposit some more, they go, well, that was silly. Like it's like a Monty Python joke, but with different pacing to spread out the whole hour and a half. And I don't know. I know I'm like checking all the film hipster cliches and talking about film school, but like I lost so much love for Wes Anderson because I found this movie was just more of the same. And I think a lot of the early press where people are like, oh, it's another banger. I just couldn't care.
Was that really the initial takes? I remember feeling like it was a little cooler than what I was kind of used to with him. But at the same point, like I think, yeah, I mean, like this is I don't know what his other ones are, but it's at a 79 and 74 on the tomato and popcorn meters. So I don't know how that comparatively is for everything else. But yeah, like to me, it's in terms of a recommendation, I'm going to go with a no. Like, I don't think there's any real reason to see it. The performances are good. Those visuals, like I said, all of that's there, but that's, you know, again, 20 years of that. I'm over that. It's not, I need, like I said, and again, the biggest crime to me a movie can do is not make me feel something. And I killed 2 hours today watching that, you know, with 15 minutes of trailers.
Well, I mean, you and me were saying, like, let's talk about the theater's experience because, yeah, the actual movie experience was so middling. But you know how you're always like, oh, Brandon, you have the worst recommendations. So to end my thoughts on this, who I would recommend the Phoenician Scheme to, if I was in a time machine going back to 2013 and trying to impress or hook up with some, like, artistic college girl in film school, I would recommend the Phoenician Scheme. But if it was that time of year, I would have just gone to go see Grand Budapest Hotel because it didn't exist. Because yeah, this movie is just
it's okay to say just you don't recommend something.
I don't recommend something. I'm always trying to find.
Like, if your aunt died in a plane crash and your little cousin's annoying, then you might like this movie. You just have to. You can just say no, dude.
That's so bang on because
you always
I'm usually
find something.
I'm usually the grand optimist where I was like, it's like, oh, if you can't pick what to watch on Netflix, I'd suggest this.
Yeah, I literally think you've recommended a movie once where you're like, if you need to put something on while you're washing dishes and looking at your phone at the same time, this is a great movie to put on for that. Yeah. And I'm like, you can just say don't watch
well, even like the movie Clown in a Cornfield, like we have a really good performing short on that one, where we said nothing positive about it for like 35 minutes, and then later the positive takeaway was me going like, excellent airplane movie, and everyone went, yeah, actually, like, looks cool, you don't care about anybody, yeah, so like, as somebody who is often liking stuff that is middle to not great, like I'm the one that said like the new Alien movie, Alien Romulus, is actually pretty good schlop. If it's corporate Disney schlop, it's good, and that was the catalyst for Shea and I beefing out this podcast. So I'm usually, even though I have some largely negative takes on some stuff, even Emilia Perez, I was like, there's some good choreography maybe, there's some, like I'm usually trying, but for this movie, when I saw it after the next movie we're about to talk about, which is the Ballerina, I had no good faith left in my heart, and I was like, even though this is a good movie, I can't love it, so heck all your critical excellence, heck all your, film school bullshit, like, sorry, Wesley, I just don't care anymore.
I was going to say, optically, without context, the biggest advocate on the podcast for the Final Destination franchise is really coming down hard on Wes Anderson. Is really amusing to me.
With his mullet and his backward Cabela's hat. Yeah.
Well, you brought it up. Let's dig into the next one on Ballerina. This is one where I finished it, and I was like, I might be becoming the negative guy a little bit. The
Simon Cowell of this podcast.
Not even that. I feel like again, I don't, because Siskel and Ebert had their own dynamic, but I mean, like I don't accept what I would have accepted 10 years ago as far as my time and enjoyment and recommendations would go.
Just on that note, because we just talked so much about the Phoenician Scheme, what order did you watch this? Was it Phoenician then Ballerina?
Sorry, I saw Ballerina ages ago. Today was Phoenician Scheme and Friendship.
Because I had seen Ballerina then Phoenician, and
yeah, that's a tough one. That's tough.
And it's tough because Ballerina, as what I think I agree with you here too. I think on the last one, Phoenician, I was way harder, but I think I saw Ballerina first. Again, my bit was like, oh, you go. I can see the Ballerina. I'm not rushing in that theater. We saw the trailer for the Ballerina a dozen times last month when I came down to visit. Mm-hmm. And many a time I looked over at you and I was like, that looks awful. And you would go, Brandon, your expectations. And you'd be like Yoda being like, one does not have expectations. You do. So anyway, so when I went into the theater, I went with my buddy. I had a couple of drinks even because I was like, I want to have the edge off. I don't want to be a hater. I want to love the new John Wick. Going to that, it burned up a lot of good faith I had to go into the Phoenician Scheme, because then I was like, ooh, a recycled property being mined for good bits. And then you see Phoenician Scheme, you're like, ooh, a recycled format style, everything for a new story. I'm out. So yeah, I also,
it's a tough double feature. I think
did not love it.
I think back to your expectations part, or not your expectations, but the other angle of the criticism I levy against you is your headspace during the time you were watching the movie.
I went in so chipper. So chipper.
No. I meant for Phoenician Scheme, because I feel like if you just saw that, you'd be like, yeah, it was mid. You'd be more in my camp, where now you're like kind of more militant about it. But no, I think like that was like I was so kind of dumbfounded, because like, again, like you brought up me giving you grief about expectation. I like I said, I just don't want, like, because there's the two sides, right? There's, on one hand, you could be like, I'm too hyped and it didn't live up to it, or I'm underhyped and I thought, well, that was great. But at the same time, you can be like, oh, I thought it would be terrible, and because I had that mindset, it was terrible, right? So it's a tough balance to navigate. For this,
Or I thought it was terrible and it surprised me, which you always discount, but
Well, like but I feel like again, but that's the duality. Like maybe it's only good, or maybe you only had fun because you thought it would be so terrible.
Yeah, because you
but
lowered the
maybe if
bar.
you just had neutral, you'd be like, and
I
whatever.
went in low bar. I went in thinking goofy action, hot Ana de Armas. I don't. This is Brandon really off the cuff here. I'm not even really into Latino women, but I think Ana de Armas is one of the sexiest women in
As
media.
if you did a voice for that.
Latina. And here's the thing: is like you know, every reviewer who I've come to now dislike has always talked about Ana de Armas in No Time to Die, and I agree. I was like, she was great in that movie. She was sexy. She was deadly. It was awesome. You see her in this movie, and I guess she's deadly. Hour and a half of her struggling to find her way as a female assassin in the universe of John Wick, and I just could not care. Back to you, Shay.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
so checked out.
I think yeah, like it was to me. I went in with I wanted it to be better than I expected it to be. That was really the baseline that I was coming in with. Like, you know, there were rumors going around at the beginning about reshoots and all of this kind of thing, but even discounting all of that, my biggest problem is franchising from John Wick. I think that's a terrible idea.
Uphill
I did
battle.
not watch the show. I don't even know where that aired or if it finished or what the hell happened. I was like, and nope, no thank you. And I didn't even try it. And in the same vein of this, like, I did the rewatch before John Wick 4. Me and the boys did a rewatch of those movies. And the thing I knocked the second one, I felt like it kind of took I love all of those. I think to me, I love all 4 of those movies. But the thing that I disliked the most in 2 was I felt like they're trying to give me more world building. And like that's when we get a little bit more about the hotels and the world and what the table and all this other shit. I don't give a fuck about any of that. Like you just need to give me in the Mission Impossible fashion. Just tell me there's a high table that we need to get permission to escape the world from. That's all I need. I don't need the intricacies of how that works. I don't need any of that shit. Okay? And that was the thing on the second one that I disliked, and I felt like they dialed that in better for 3 and 4. This one,
I agree,
is egregiously bad in just
horrendous.
How much, like, we're diving right into spoilers. I don't recommend this movie. It is franchise slop. It is
cash grab,
wildly hollow. They can't even fucking have the stones to name it. Ballerina in the fucking world of John Wick. Like,
from the world of John Wick is all
just
over
call
this.
it like, oh my fuck.
Real quick, because I'm going to let you go off.
I'm going to unleash here next.
Often when we talk about franchises and rewrites or prequels, as one does, we've referenced the Star Wars universe, you know. Like, I think on one episode recently, I was like, oh, it's like how in Solo, they're like, your name's Han, no last name, traveling solo, Han Solo, and they stamp his passport. This movie, I would say, is like a pretty bad offender for what I call The Mandalorian Season 3.5, which is just the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
they did a spin-off called The Book of Boba Fett. That was because they drummed up a ton of interest from Mandalorian, and half the series of The Book of Boba Fett was just like cutaways to what's the Mandalorian up to. And he was doing cool stuff. He's getting Naboo Starfighter, XYZ. Cool stuff. Loved the Mandalorian part of the Book of Boba Fett. But the problem is, it wasn't called The Mandalorian Season 3.5. It was called The Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So I think The Ballerina is a John Wick 4.5 with a ton of bloat, and they try to do some stuff. We'll get into the bloat. I want Shay to go off. He's my pit bull. I'm sending him out a group of toddlers in a field. I want him to go. But for the clippability and the audience here, I just want to say this movie was like a 30% of John Wick movie, and all those bits were like fresh air, and then everything else was just middling.
I even disagree with that, because the John Wick bits for me, I thought were the worst John Wick bits we've ever seen. So
hey, real quick on that note, I got clowned on for my bladder in the Mission Impossible movies. This movie, I was like, perfect, another buzzer beater watch checking moment, and there's a point where John Wick says, in 30 minutes, I have to kill you. And with 24 seconds left, he calls off the hit because the movie followed the... I checked my watch, buzzer beater, everything works out in the time the movie said it would. No Mission Impossible 34-minute, 20-minute bombs or 4-minute bombs that are now 8 minutes to fit in all the screen time. So points.
Okay,
in a bad movie.
I'm going to cut you out from under your knees on this point.
Sure.
You're making the logical fallacy of that all of those moments are happening in the sequence in which we are watching them, and
True.
that is untrue. So I'm assuming Tom was hanging off the plane doing all that shit while they were doing that thing in the bomb. So eat shit, your point's wrong. I win again. No, okay, I'm unleashing. I can't take this
all right,
anymore.
You're off the leash.
So the thing with, and I'm diving into spoilers if you care. I mean, don't care, because frankly, there's nothing interesting enough here to spoil. But the biggest gripe I have with this whole thing is the John Wick of this all is the fucking franchise part. Like, it's so disgustingly nakedly transparent about that's the sole reason that this exists, is to make money off something that people liked. And it's got none of the things to me like, okay, sure, some of the action's better than maybe most generic action movies in Ballerina. Sure. It's not as good as John Wick. It just isn't. There's one sequence in this that I thought was interesting, and it was the grenade one. Was fun.
There's a few of those.
Well, I thought the flamethrower one was wildly overdone. I was like, how many fucking shots of slow-mo flamethrower are you guys going to cram in here for
slow-mo.
me?
They don't use a lot of slow-mo in this franchise, and so the fact that they were doing a lot more slow motion.
It was so and it's not that. It was neat once.
It was a good sequence. And then
it was like, again, I'm like,
I
was
agree with you.
losing my shit.
The flamethrower is kind of the action climax of the story, and I did think visually, and for this story, A++. For John Wick, this maybe would have been like the third act, first act closer in a 3-act structure where he has like a tough battle, but he 1v1s it and moves on with the story. But this was like the ultimate climax between Ana de Armas and some unnamed goon with a flamethrower, and I was like, looks cool. And to get my bit here, the thing I hate the most of this movie is it takes bits that would have been great in a John Wick sequel. They take action set pieces that if they just saved it for the next installment, I know that it's over, but if they just saved the flamethrower bit, some of the grenade bits, some of the ice skate bit, they saved some of that for the next John Wick, I would have been way happier seeing Keanu do all this in the next iteration of the franchise, and not just like, again, the Ballerina, the John Wick 4.5. I want to see in the John Wick 5.
Well, but that also touches on the problem of this in the first place, and it's the same thing when it's like, oh, we're going to do the Ghostbusters, but it's all female, and I'm not making a political statement. My point with that is that when you do that, it is just a different version of the thing I've seen, and because it's something you've seen, it's lesser automatically. It doesn't matter if it's as good. You've seen it, and so it by definition is just not as impactful. It's not as high of a high as it was when you first saw it. And so like this already is set up to fail for that reason, I feel like. But you brought up the Star Wars of it all, and it's the easiest franchise because it's the biggest one at this point in terms of where
most
these
legacy
issues manifest.
Sequels too.
Well, it's where the question of this manifests, where people are like, well, the problem with Star Wars, there's two kind of camps that make the same point, just arguing from different perspectives. And that's the problem is that no one cares about your Star Wars thing if it's not about the Skywalkers, right? Because that's what Star Wars is about, in its first 6 iterations. And then the other camp of it is that, like, no, you need to just completely, like, there's a whole other gajillion galaxies or whatever, infinite galaxies in the Star Wars universe that would have no idea about the Skywalker. So you should just completely ignore them and just do stuff like that in Star Wars. My fucking point is that you should not do either of those things. So in one case, you have to be like, okay, how can I get more out of Darth Vader? Can I just write more stories between episodes 3 and 4 with Darth Vader? No. It doesn't work. It's not as good. It will not work. Or do I, again, just ignore all of the events of Star Wars and just do, like, a complete adjacent story that just exists in the same universe? Then what the fuck is the point of doing a Star Wars thing? And that is my fucking problem with this movie, is that there is no reason this needs to be into the John Wick universe, except for the fact that they want that name to bring more people out to pay to see the movie.
I want to hop on your hate train.
Bro, you keep
I'm
going.
so sorry.
All right, go.
I want to hop on your hate train.
You told me you're going to let me maul the kids, and then every time I maul one child, you're like, wait.
Well, one child's a lot of child. Well, you're eating the kid, but I want to like help him get down that throat.
Go.
To your exact point, super quick, the Zack Snyder fake Star Wars Rebel Moon. I was stoked for that because it was going to be a not Star Wars. Kind of sucked, but I'm like, I want more swings, more attempts at getting us out of Star Wars being the only thing. Like, and Star Trek sucks. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, but to what you're saying though, why the frig is it the ballerina? You know what I mean? Being a ballet performer and a ballerina has so little to do with the story. It's so little to do with anything.
It. Okay.
It's just like, let's take a generic, like a Black Widow type trope and make her an assassin with a dead dad. We did not need the 20 minutes of her dad being murdered at the start. Just shotgun us into her being a female assassin under the shadow of John Wick, and I would have been like, I know, I saw the trailer. The opener and all the training, it was so irrelevant.
Well,
all of it.
I'll, in one hand, I agree and disagree, because it's like the movie's trying somewhat to be its own movie, but it's just an inferior version. Like, it doesn't work that way. And like, again, the reason it's a ballerina is because, we had that connection to the ballerina in John Wick. So then it becomes, she's one of those people from the Ruscaroma. And this is, again, where I have fucking problems. This script originally was nothing to do with John Wick.
I guarantee it, yeah.
And it was like probably still a ballerina, right? That was just like, I'm a ballerina, but at night I'm an assassin. Whatever, I don't know what the original script was. But my point is, that is a horrible place to then try and build off of. And again, like, my point is, like, even if you can do okay at this, it's just not worth it. It's just not. Like, John Wick, if they tried to make John Wick 1, but they're like, let's call it, like, again, they make it a Star Wars. Like, if we just put some label on it of something else that exists, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be shit, because there are too many involved and you have a legacy to deal with. And there's all of these other implications that you have to acknowledge, or like you're already handcuffed by. Like, if the creative process for you through writing, for example, is all of a sudden this obstacle comes into your purview where you're like, oh fuck, I have to acknowledge this thing even though I don't want to, and it doesn't work in my movie because I know people will get upset, or I know that happened. And it's like, you're free of any of those limitations if you're doing something original, because you don't have any of this stuff to rely on or call back to or reference or whatever. And then you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you just make it a serial pop fest of like MCU, oh my god, remember this stuff, like, okay, like, I feel like we're optimistically moving past that as a culture. Like, these things are not as impactful on us anymore. But also, it's then you get the other side of it. If you don't do it, people are like, well, how come, why didn't this character acknowledge? Like, obviously they would have thought, it's like when the Avengers thing, why didn't they call the Avengers in to save the world in the Captain America solo movie, right?
Yeah,
like, it's the same problem. So you fuck yourself every time you try to link these things in. And this didn't need, like, Ana de Armas could have done a similar movie. Like, she did good. Like, she did good. The action,
she's the highlight of it for sure.
The action was better maybe than I thought it might be. Like, I was worried, again, that was the reshoot component. Like, it was, she's got enough there for, like, acting wise. Like, I'm talking purely like athletic stunt performance. She was good. The performance did absolutely nothing for me outside of that, but that's also just the story. But like, it's like, there's like, I want to try and get some specifics out, because I think, like, for example, like, you have that whole opening of her and her dad, and it's to set up the emotional stakes. or whatever. Again, you're fucking it up. John Wick 1 nailed this. Asshole guy kills a fucking dog. We are done. I have all the motivation I needed. I never cared a fraction as much about her arc in this than I did in the first John Wick. Not even close. And you did fucking 30 minutes less to set that up in the first John Wick than you did here.
I super agree, and I want you to continue on that thought path because my two thoughts are, and I think I can't remember if you saw this in like more recently than I. Don't you hate the fact that the one person explains her dad to be the Kiki Yaga or something, like the Bubba Yaga, but the discount version? An evil
the
soul
or whatever.
The Kiki Mara. I remember hearing that, and I looked at my friend Boren like straight up. I just looked at him. I was like, that sucks. They've immediately cheapened my relationship to this franchise. Okay. Because she's like, this is a boogeyman of sorts. The Kiki Mara. I'm like, you can't John Wick.
You're triggering me so hard.
Okay, I want you to go on that. But then, I think if they did her whole origin story as brief flashbacks when she gets concussions throughout the rest of the movie, like I'm talking 1 minute flashbacks, not 20 minutes at the start, I would have been like, okay, digestible, no problem. But yeah, the first 20 minutes, waste of screen time.
Give me 7 minutes of her at ballerina school with her friend there, and then have that friend get killed. I care way more. And you've done it in a fraction of the time, and I don't need any of this stuff.
Or she kills her to advance because she has a goal, which is to get revenge. She does nothing active.
The point is, you could set this up way cleaner, and it's be not something I've seen a million times. Oh my god, a revenge arc because your dad died. Like holy,
the scar
Jesus.
on the hand. You're like.
But what was your first point there? You were talking
about the Kiki Mara, where they're boogeyman with a different name.
There was one specific moment. I'm going to jump way ahead now.
Yeah.
That like aggressively upset me. Like when I literally was like, oh, like I made an audible scoff.
I had two moments for sure.
Well, the one was this is again how chopped up this shit is. So John Wick's inclusion in this, completely unnecessary, completely useless. People are like, oh, I liked it. I'm like, no, okay, because you like seeing Keanu as John Wick. It was the worst John Wick stuff we've seen in 5 movies now. I don't know if he was in that show or whatever, but in 5 movies. Yeah. But you can tell how chopped off it was because there's a scene where he's like overlooking with that sniper
scope,
and then all of a sudden he's like, wait, there's people behind me in the house. So he goes into this like chapel or whatever and starts killing people in the chapel. But there's a moment where they go like, huh, fuck that, man, it's John Wick. And they like say it. And I was
That's ADR to death, too.
Oh, yeah. And I was so pissed off by that because I'm like, okay, that is the gag in the first movie because it's unclear to the audience, right? Like, we don't know who the fuck John Wick is, but the fact that every single person is reacting to him like, you fucking killed whose dog? You took whose car? That becomes like a meme and is funny in that. This is like the fourth wall breaking wink nudge at the audience to be like, haha, we're in on the bit too, right, guys? John Wick's fucking crazy cool, right? And I wanted to like, I'm like, you don't deserve that. You haven't earned that. You are just something that exists, literally playing off the goodwill of the thing that exists before. And to tie a similar thread to that, after her dad dies and she gets picked up at the police station by Ian McShane, I don't remember his character's name.
Yeah.
Why the fuck was it Ian McShane? You want to know why? Because you remember him from the fucking John Wick movies.
Remember Bears?
They don't give us some even shoehorn line of like, me and your father were best friends. Like, they don't give us some like reason why he would be the one picking her up other than like, hey, here's the girl. Like, he doesn't take her. He just pawns her off to the Ruska Roma. Why wouldn't they have came? Her dad was part of that clique or whatever. Why didn't they just come get her? Why did the hotel owner guy come get her? It's because you remember him, and it's like, oh my, like, it's just so, like, again, it's not even seeing the Matrix, because that's implying there's, like,
bigger
intelligence
thoughts
behind it. Like, it's just the most transparently see-through crap. And my point with that John Wick scene is that after he goes through the house and clears it, there's another shot at the end, I think maybe the one you were talking about when he looks at the watch. It's the exact same shot. It's the exact same shot as the first one where he was in the perch. So he literally leaves to come back and just go right to the exact same spot because they're like, let's just shove a John Wick sequence into this fucking movie for no reason. It's not with Ana de Armas. She's not in that moment. It's just to have a fucking John Wick sequence in the movie so people go like, oh, John Wick, I fucking loved it. And again, his inclusion in the fucking trailer bit where they show her in like this abandoned like
I really
house.
wish they didn't include him because that would have popped way hard. Even if it was member berries, I would have popped harder.
I would have hated it still. But my point is that again, it's fucking useless. He goes because he fights her to prevent her from killing this guy because he was sent there. Like, don't let her do it and whatever. He fights her. He doesn't he intentionally doesn't kill her, but like he could have multiple times. They set that up clearly, which at least they had the fucking ability to do that. If they're like, oh, she almost beat him, I would have walked out. But like they handled that part at least well. But again, the whole point. And then she goes, they killed my dad to try and get him to elicit the sympathy, and he says, I know. And I'm like, and then he lets her go. And I'm like, well, if you fucking knew that and you were going, like, all she had to do was remind you and you were going to let her do it, why did we have this little action sequence? Because you were going to let her, and he would have walked up and said, you have 30 minutes. If you don't kill him by midnight, I have to kill you. Okay, great. There's your motivation. There's the propelling force you need to speed this up. But let's just, we got Keanu. Let's throw in a fucking John Wick fight scene. And I'm like, oh my God, it was, and like, honestly, the thing that pisses me off the most is that the level of rage I feel for the kind of franchising of it all is not fair to like the movie itself. Like, the action scenes are better than most of the movies. Like, these things are, like, better in this than most other generic action shit. The story is just as bad as all the other ones, like, narratively and emotionally and whatever else. But it's just so frustrating because they took something that was original, barely got made, and was a risk. And because they did that, and now just to see the morbid nature of that, turn this into, let's just get more IP, MCU-esque, like, member berry slop out of it, I find it revolting. I find it revolting as a concept. And to see something like, again, all four of those movies I love. I adore them. I can rewatch them. I've seen people putting the Ballerina above certain other ones in this franchise. You're fucking crazy. You're fucking crazy. There's no reason that should happen. This is egregiously a step down in every single regard. And it is extra bad when you factor in the fact that it's just cash grab, cash grab, cash grab. That's all it is. It's a better version than that it could have been. Like, sure, it could have been worse, but does that change the heart and core and soul of this movie? Absolutely not. And like, not only do I not recommend it, like, I'm like morally opposed to it as a concept. So
now,
not to tell people how to spend their money, but don't. And I'll let Brandon go because.
All right, real quick. You want to do that on your bits? I want to set you off again. No, I want to set you off again because I think one could. No, hear me out. Star Warsification here. Last week, I was talking about unnecessarily being very Red Pill, being like, as the wife of Tim Robinson in Friendship, the Real Enemy, because she, basically was softcore cheating on him, only stayed with him because of cancer, maybe financial reasons, whatever. Cut all that right to this bit. Do you think part of the reason why this movie also lacks, on top of all the very valid criticisms you've weighed against it, they do an egregious job of trying to overly feminize this story, considering John Wick and the John Wick franchise was kind of like the masculine archetype dream. Like, imagine remaking Rambo with a female protagonist who's good at everything. They make so many efforts in this movie to be like, you're a woman, you're never going to be as strong as a male thug. You gotta work harder, play dirty, be smart. Like, they really put the effort in to make her more endearing because she's not John Wick. All the reviews that glazed this movie, Chris Stockman, were just like, oh, it's not John Wick, guys. It's pretty great. Yeah, of course. They're trying to do something that's different, but in reality, I do think there's a small element to this where it's like, part of the fantasy of the movie, like Taken, even not a great movie or franchise, but it's about an old guy who's got old ways and will be a badass when called on when he's needed to be. And that's kind of the theme with John Wick, is he's retired, he's an older guy, he wants to be left alone, and he's the most vengeful person, the most capable man. And now they're taking one of the most endearing aspects, being a capable guy, and they're making it about a woman who is struggling to find her way in the assassin world, who, you know, has a not compelling revenge story because it's like a dime a dozen. When you said, she says, oh, they killed my dad to John Wick, and he goes, I know. How many times did John Wick know somebody was on a revenge quest? Because I feel like he knew every time. It was like, because he's the man, he's the GOAT. The whole point of John Wick is he is the boogeyman of boogeymen. He's the of all the Kiki Yagas, he's the Bubba Yaga. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's the original. And this movie very quickly starts talking about her dad. Like, oh, even I don't know if you clocked this, but Diego from Umbrella Academy is her dad. And
Never seen it.
okay, well, he looks like John Wick from those like kind of
Yeah, he
blurry.
did.
Yeah, I think they're trying to manipulate us to think, is John Wick her dad? Because otherwise, why the hell would we care? You're totally right. So, I agree with you, but I want you to kind of speak to this aspect. 'cause I
Well,
think
honestly, that part of it I felt was, I mean, listen, we had a healing moment in the credits.
we did.
was
Now,
it-
explain
was-
that for the general audience in my clips.
Well, yeah, so like in Drop, we had the credits song about the trauma and like I'm not, I'm still broke, but I'm healing or whatever.
The smoke's
the
clearing and I'm
Yeah.
healing plays over the domestic abuse survivors movie.
Yeah.
And this movie, the final credit, as you said, was like the lyrics were like, "Cause I fight like a girl."
Yeah, and I texted you because I saw it and I heard it when the credits were playing and I was like, oh, I forgot to like check what that song was because so I made you do it when you saw it after. But like, okay, that was in the credits. There was really only one moment that stood out for me that I really remember other than the credits, where that was sort of not the heavy-handed, but it was like she tries to like in the training montage you didn't like. She tries to throw a guy, and the guy just kind of holds his ground and throws her, and that's when they're like, "You're different. You have to fight different."
No, it makes sense. I'm just saying
No,
that's
for sure. But like,
part of
I
the
don't,
evidence for why it's a little too feminist.
But like, well, that's true. And that's where like that makes sense. But
in the story, it makes sense. I'm just saying it's the wrong movie
Right.
to have that message.
I don't care. I don't really think I don't know if I agree with you on that. Like, I didn't really see the John Wick of it all as like I just thought it was cool as fuck. Like, I don't know if I like attributed it like emotional elements to it in that sense. Like, again, like other than the dogs I love, like I'm a big dog guy, so I'm obviously emotional. Then I'm like, kill that bitch. You fucking looked at that dog bad. But like, I don't know. Like, I thought the movie was better in that regard, maybe than not that I expected it. Like, I honestly didn't think about it, but I didn't feel that was overly done until the credits. But again, where I felt like the writing kind of undercuts itself was like that, which like we cannot get through this without mentioning the sister angle in this movie.
Oh my god, dude! I forgot how bad that was.
Got to be one of the genuinely, and I've seen a lot of shit. Gotta be one of the worst things I've seen in a movie. Like, I couldn't believe that they fucking did that. Like, when they revealed that it was her sister, and then instant fucking taneously
Under 2 minutes of screen time later,
iced the fucking sister, for them to have one moment that makes like zero emotional impact. 'Cause
Zero.
You're still recovering from how dumb this revelation is and irrelevant. Like, it's not like she was super prominent, really. Like, she was there, but she was not like this big
she was the
figure.
number one henchman's henchman.
Yeah, like, it's
Like-
and then it just kind of like wildly goes unaddressed, and like the villain fucking sucked. Like, this main guy, I don't remember his name. I don't care. The whole fucking bit was dumb. Like, the motivation was also, like, razor thin. Like, this whole bit about, like, oh, they killed the dog. Like, we saw that. Her fucking dad doesn't even get killed by the main bad guy in this movie. He's fucking shot by someone off screen. We never see who kills it. It's just that this guy monologued at the dad beforehand, so he's now the one that's got to take the brunt of her revenge. Like, it was so fucking stupid, and again, that's bad. Like, it makes me, like, even if you showed me him shoot the fucking dad, I will still care slightly more about the fact that you're trying to kill the guy that killed your dad. I don't think he killed the dad. And if he did, why did you not show me that? Because he literally is like, they're running away, escaping, and he gets shot through a wall. Like, we don't see it. They do not make that clear. So it's like the motivation sucks. It all fucking sucks. And then you get to the end and it's like, hey, remember the end of John Wick 2? Guess who's got a bounty on them too, buddy? The Ballerina now. And she's on the run, and they like set it up for a sequel. And I was like, I just checked while we were talking. The box office estimates have this opening to levels of John Wick 2, which is good because that's better, and by better I mean worse for the movie than it could have been. I do not think that they need to fucking stop. Like, the message to me from John Wick's success is give Chad Stahelski the fucking money and the runway to do what the fuck he wants. That is the message.
Yeah.
You took a shot and it paid off on these guys, okay? One of them. I think the other one sucks.
Well, Chad Stahelski came back, I think, right? Like, he wasn't as...
So this is, he's saying, and I believe this, like, through the context, is that he's saying his involvement in this was overblown. Like, they were saying he came back and reshot a bunch of shit. It was, and then he's saying the reshoots were actually things that they were not given the budget for initially, but that Lionsgate was like, okay, here's a bit more money. And so then they went back and he helped oversee those shoots. Which my guess is, frankly, they're the Keanu bits that feel really shoehorned in.
Yeah, it could be.
Because those are the things that seem the most disjointed. Like, again, that scene where he goes into the bell tower just to have a solo John Wick action sequence, or the scene with Ana de Armas feels very shoehorned in. I have no idea, but the point of that, like, I think his involvement in this is overblown, and they're trying to keep him in as a producer, and I don't know, like, he was, I think, a producer role, but I'm like, this was two fucking people. This is two people. This is Chad Stahelski and Keanu Reeves. That's the thing. If you do anything outside of that, it will not be as good. It just won't. So I don't know why you bother. Like, I'm worried too. Like, this makes me worried about like you said, there's only the 4. They're saying there's another John Wick coming. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
I'm super fucking nervous about that. This made me more nervous about that. My only hope is that Keanu and Chad fucking hold strong on this, because, like, if something comes to you, like, I've heard the bit where people are like, he has to go into hell and kill everybody over again.
Like Constantine.
Fuck yes, dude.
Yeah,
I'm in.
yeah.
Like, I don't, like, lean into the bit. Like, that works. I don't care. But, like, the fact that this wrapped up in 4 as good as it did for me is a miracle. I was so impressed by how I'm like, you know what, this works. That's a really solid conclusion for this character, for these movies. Great. Like, I couldn't believe how well that ending worked. And now if they undercut it in Lionsgate's, like, and Lionsgate's in fucking shit right now.
Shambles,
like, they've been so bad for like 2 years. And like, God bless them, they helped on fucking Megalopolis, but fuck's sakes, like, this was such a terrible, terrible cash grab.
The Ballerina is one of the first few Cineplex produced movies. Did you notice that?
Because they do a lot of shit with Lionsgate, I'm assuming, because Lionsgate's not putting money up to release things. So.
You know another movie I think's a Cineplex co-production? Shadow Force.
Oh, I think that's true too. Which it was in and out of theaters faster than a shadow disappears.
I didn't know it came out.
Dude.
Yeah. So, like, it's our job to know that. I didn't know it came out. But yeah, you know, to kind of like put my little spin on it too, is a part of me did wonder if I gave as much shit to the first John Wick movie. But then I, like you, was like, they do the introduction to the world, the introduction to the character really well. It's brief. It's like a hint, and then they explain it over 3 movies. And it's a very, again, I love my wife. I have a death wish. I am the best at killing people. I will keep killing you guys. So
they
but
killed
with this
my
movie,
dog. Like it is.
they killed my dog. Yeah,
it's so simple. Like again, you don't. When people talk about, oh, you couldn't do that because it would fuck up the pacing. You can give me buy-in with very minimal stuff.
Yeah,
like it can be done. But like again, it was. I love my wife. I'm a great killer, and you just killed my dog.
So
that's all I needed.
To that, what I'm saying is, do you think the sequel to this movie will be better because they don't waste as much time setting up the ballerina, and we just get to the Stilhelski oneers and crazy set pieces? Because I do, like I said, my biggest gripe is that this movie overall sucks so hard that the set pieces feel like they were wasted on the ballerina, and I wish the ballerina was like the second act of John Wick 4 or John Wick 5. Like, she was a side character and they did some co-op missions. Like, you know what I mean? Like the flamethrower thing, if she did that while John Wick was fighting in a cage and then they linked back up, real quick, you said the grenade bit. There's a couple good bits. There's an unnecessary grenade bit. She throws a guy over a balcony, like with a noose and a grenade. The grenade explodes on the hanging man, and then that's when the guards in the guard tower go, "Oh, there's somebody here." And it's like, why would you blow up the guy who you just hung up to be hung, or hanged? Anyways, you're totally right, though. I agree with you on a lot of that. My only levity was like maybe in a sequel when they don't have to waste 25 minutes with the dad and the Russian ballet, and they can just get straight to Ana de Armas doing stuff. But my big gripe, I know I was like 20 minutes ago, I was trying to play the red pill, like, women in my John Wick franchise. Let's talk about women in action movies not showing enough cleavage, huh? Let's get into the real nitty gritty. In No Time to Die, Ana de Armas was very sexy and deadly. She was a new assassin, kind of new MI6 agent learning the ropes. And Daniel Craig was like kind of being more like nice and mentorish, wasn't trying to hit on her. I like that a lot, and I think to have such a sexy actress or a sex symbol, like it's like Sydney Sweeney and Ana de Armas are like black and white, the two yin and yang of Hollywood sexy girls lately, I feel, in my opinion. And they did nothing with the sex appeal in this movie, and I think like that's just another missed opportunity. And I'm not saying like everything needs to be gratuitous, but you would expect when you attach a name like that to a movie like this. So that's why I believe it's an overly feminist movie, because they're trying to make it about her struggle as a woman in this world without sexifying her. So
well, that's not okay.
Like, you've ruined all my takes, Brendan.
No,
Thanks.
well, literally, I was just thinking, I'm like, if this had like a huge following and we were like notable critics, your point there would be used to undercut every single valid point I just made, even though it's not my point. No, listen,
you see my point, though? There would have been like a bikini shot by a pool, and then she killed.
You want the Michael Bay version of an action thing, and that's fine. Those exist.
Would have been better than this,
probably. But my point is like, I don't like that. Of the list of problems I have with the movie, that's not even close to it, because I think like,
I'm saying that's like number 9 out of a list of 10 for me personally, but I do think that's worth bringing up. Why would you put
well, no, why like, okay, does Glenn Powell have to have an ab shot in every
100%?
100%.
No, because I can't say no to that without sounding sexist. I think you can't cast sexy people and make them act ugly unless that's the bit. I'm just saying, casting like a Glenn Powell.
Okay,
and
I
even
would
Tom
also
Cruise.
not classify her as ugly in this movie either. It's not like she's...
No, I never said she was. I'm saying like...
Well, she wasn't hot enough?
I'm just saying they didn't do enough. Like, okay, so hear me out. I know I'm losing the plot here, and I know you're like actively trying to distance yourself. Talking about the writing, talking about all your problems. Like, I was going to jump in on this like first act beef, not third act beef, but they do the thing where they show her getting her footing, and they have a couple moments that I thought were kind of nice and inspired to reel in all my like criticisms here, where they show her killing a bunch of people on a top floor of a building, and she gets in an elevator and she just cleans herself up, and the door opens, and the guy is like, "Were you stuck in the elevator?" She goes, "Yeah, it was so scary," and she walks out. John Wick getting out of the elevator covered in blood, being a recognizable Baba Yaga. They would have seen him, and it would have been another 30-minute action set piece. So I do like that there is this layer where she has to use her kind of like unassuming, kind of timid, kind of cute cocktail girl look in that scene. And I wish they maybe lean into that more, where she had to be more stealthy or more seductive. I'm not saying she had to have like tits out Margot Robbie, Wolf of Wall Street sex appeal, where she's like every word is trying to get like the male gaze.
You're making my case for the thing that I brought up previously, which is
I'm just saying they could have used her smarter. She could have been smarter about the job.
But what you are saying is that because none of that would have worked in a John Wick franchise movie.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
but that's what I mean. Like, so you're making my case of like, well, she has to do those things because it's the John Wick thing. We're not going to do a John Wick movie where it's about sneaking and spying and whatever. Like, that's not what John Wick is. So, okay, maybe you would have liked that other movie and maybe it would have been better. Like, I don't know. But this is the fucking problem, like, where it has to exist in this. It has to be related to this. It has to feel like this. So it can't be anything else. And so, like, again, I don't know if that would have been better, but like that's why it was that way.
To hit you with it, we talk about Star Wars again here. Andor is remarkably less Star Wars feeling. It is the world of Star Wars through a more ground level, kind of like political thriller or espionage or like ground level troop type perspective. Now, what I'm saying is the Ballerina being a spin-off where it's literally, again, like I was saying, it's about a woman assassin who is never going to be as strong and as tough as a male thug as they set up. I do think there's room here where they understand that, and it's from the world of John Wick, but it's a side story. It's a story about the Ballerina and how she can dance her way through these political opponents or whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe they should have adjusted their scale and scope to be more accurate to the protagonist of this movie, and maybe there would have been 2 moments where they John Wick it up with a crazy, 180 fight scene where everything's going on or John Wick shows up. But I think they had an opportunity and they wrote themselves out by being a spin-off about the Ballerina to do a different style story in that universe, to get the clout of that universe, but maybe to say like, oh, they have some really good writing, some good clever character bits. You know what I mean? They could have gone a different direction.
The same argument, right? It would have been the same thing. Like, why did you call this John Wick? It's nothing like it. It's a insert type of action genre here, not just a straight action movie. And like, I find it funny to kind of hold you accountable here.
Sure.
I find it interesting that you're like, well, I thought like maybe it was a little too feminist heavy and we're trying to be too different and draw attention to the fact that she's a woman. And they're like, why didn't she use the fact that she's a woman more often in this movie? I feel like you're literally making the counter arguments to your own arguments.
Checkmate here. Checkmate. You fall into my trap.
I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm like, I fucking feel like he just made the opposite argument about this 20 minutes ago. But again, you're embodying the exact point that I made. Where, like, you could have just done a movie, like, she could have done an amazing action movie. Like, I believe, like, it was on display. She has that. I know she has the acting chops to make a lead that I actually care about. And, like, the athletic part is there, obviously, in this movie. All of the pieces are there. It is bogged down by the fact that you tried to tie it to a franchise that has, like, more or less, like, amongst the people that like it, it's like a universal praise.
Well, like the highest bar of action cinema is John Wick.
It's the movie that we can't separate ourselves from when
action.
We see other action movies. Like, I remember Kelsey and I talking about Monkey Man last year, and I'm like, I try so hard, and we talk about expectations.
It's like Indian John Wick is what I said.
Well, like, a lot worse, I feel like. But I tried so hard to not think about like John Wick when I watched other action scenes like that. But even in Mission, like Dead Reckoning, there was a couple fight scenes that I'm like,
John Wick would have done it better.
Well, yes, and like that's not the Mission thing, but like it's still it impacts my viewing experience. I can't separate those things, and so. Like, again, if you take away all of that and all of the connections, and if you think about all the bloat from just the John Wick references, if you added another action scene, if you gave us a little bit more character time, if you needed that to do something more with, to like invest in this, like I feel like I really struggled when I was trying to do my like Letterboxd review. The thing I basically concluded was that like This movie was so focused on trying to be and remind us that it exists in the John Wick universe that it forgets to give us a reason to give a shit about this movie. Like, all this movie did was make me rather watch any of the John Wick movies. And, like, I didn't care about her character. I thought, again, like, athletically, she nailed this. Performance-wise, she did nothing. There was nothing for her to do. Like, it was, again, narratively. And, like, again, I'm not talking complexity here, right? Like we've said about the dead dog. John Wick is unbelievably simple in its
very shallow,
every time,
but it executes time after time.
Yes, I'm not talking about like I needed some real depth in this movie, but like I just needed a reason to care, and this movie at no point gave me that. Any attempt at it was like terrible. Again, like the motivations were terrible. The references and callbacks were just distracting and
lazy.
Outright like just took me out and like bottom of the barrel. And like I like it was truly mystifying to me. Like think about like the serious moments in John Wick where think all 4 movies. Can you tell me, and like this is not a trick question, like was there one moment where we had like an emotional moment with your dead sister? Like the amount of emotion we get of John Wick is like when they're coming up the stairs at the end.
I was gonna say dying
like,
on the staircase together. Yeah.
And that's it in 4 fucking movies. But like that's the generic action movie shit. We need to shoehorn in like an emotional beat here that we're gonna completely disregard and not build up properly. It fucking sucks.
I know this is a loaded statement because it's 4 movies culminating, but I felt genuine chills and goosebumps. I felt so emotionally like invested and like triggered, honestly. In the 4th movie, when you see John Wick's tombstone, his headstone says "a loving husband," because that was his thing. It was like, I don't want to be known for this, and I was like, damn, bro. He did it. He's finally out.
And that's
meanwhile,
a 15
in this movie,
second scene.
it's a cutaway.
He says that
it's a tombstone.
You know?
Yeah, and exactly. You know, and in this movie, I kept thinking, like, what if every time she set off a grenade, she had a concussion / like flashback to like her dad being shot. We don't cut back to her father's dying words. We just cut back to a guy getting shot, and then we assume that's her dad. Anyways, I think you and I are both in like heavy ingredients, and I would like to tie it back to last week's episode talking about Bring Her Back, where I largely liked it and I did defend it pretty adamantly despite some of the glaring issues. But with this movie, I agree. Some of its parts does not add up just like that. There's a lot of great scenes, good visual moments. You know, some of the world building I did kind of appreciate because, like you said, like sometimes it gets lost in it. I do think like if you are going to continue the world of John Wick, you do want to explain stuff. I do think her first time at the Continental and ends up doing like a B&E shootout is detracting from the series because they make the Continental such a staple of no violence. And so, you know, when we talk about Star Wars and stuff, when you have an entry in a franchise where it feels like it undermines the rest of it or the severity or like it's hallowed ground. Like in the first, I think it's like the 4th movie, there's finally a shootout
like
at the
it's
Continental.
such a big deal. Like
they burn it to the ground because they're like, you've compromised the integrity. Meanwhile, this movie, it's like, I did not kill anybody, and then the 2 people get shot, and she's like, and this is what I'm getting back to my misogynist bullshit. I think there's some pretty privilege going on here, because not only does she have like lead character plot armor, but yeah, she's attractive Ana de Armas, and it's like, again, is it Winston? Why does that guy take pity on her? Pretty young lady, pretty young girl, groomer aspect. You know, I think there's all these moments where men, including Jonathan Wick, look at her when she goes, "They killed my dad," and he goes, "I know, but don't," like. And I work with blue collar scumbags all the time. Anytime any remotely attractive woman ends up in your area, I don't care that I'm a hard ass and I complain about all these things. I'll let it slide. And I feel like she gets a lot of that, so I wish they leaned into it. Like she was the master manipulator. I wish she flirted with John Wick and he got fucking caught off. Or don't. I don't care. I know you said that would ruin it. I know. I'm glad he kicked her ass at every opportunity when they were 1v1ing. He kept just being like, parry this, and would flip her over kind of thing. It was good because I didn't want to see my boy get done dirty. But I'm just saying, like, you know, I do think there's a layer of like plot armor that comes across as pretty privilege, you know, in my job, like working on set. if I'm carrying 4 heavy boxes and there's a guy does not hold the door for me. If I'm my female coworker carrying a coffee, they'll be like, let me get the door for you. And it's like, there it is. That's the gender gap solved right there, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, so
I think to wrap this up,
let's please wrap this up.
I find it wildly amusing to me that the level of passion that I brought to my arguments you could only match by being like, the women aspect of this, bro. Either I needed way less of it or way more boobs.
Way more of it.
That's the only...
either make her the most masculine assassin female possible or lean into her feminine charm. I think they middle the roaded it, and it eroded some of the values they set up for this cold-hearted assassin world. I just want to say that as my dying statement.
And for all intents and purposes, literally none of those were even on my radar. The only thing I thought of was that credit song made me think of the healing bit where I'm like, oh, like... It didn't make me want to run through the screen like it did last time. Again, like I think because I didn't feel that was too heavy-handed throughout the movie. But I mean, like I said, obviously I feel a way about this. But like I said, I adore. I don't, and like I've never referred to it as a franchise. That's the other thing that bothers me now is that I'm like, it's the John Wick movies. It's the John Wick quadrilogy. I've never been like I love the John Wick franchise. No, I don't like the John Wick franchise. I love the John Wick quadrilogy of films. Fuck the spin-off show. Fuck this Ballerina movie. Fuck whatever sequels and whatever other shit they're gonna try to do. And for the love of God, Chad and Keanu, please do not do a 5 unless you are confident in it. I trust the two of you. I do not trust Lionsgate. Please, for the love of God, don't tarnish what was a perfect series of 4 movies for me.
Hey, for every I call it a high stakes opinion. It's very easy to talk about like blanket storytelling, but to call out real issue. No, I'm kidding. I know you're trying to wrap up, but I was clowned on for my bathroom take on Mission Impossible. I went into this movie very happy, very thrilled, 3 or 4 drinks deep, and I went to the bathroom twice during Ballerina. And the etiquette with my friend and I, if I ever go or he ever goes in whatever long movie, because usually the theaters are pretty empty, it's not a big deal. Walk back in and we lean over and we whisper kind of like what happened, like what was the big beat we missed, and very like respectful. I walk back in for my first bathroom break, and my buddy leans over and I go, no, I go, I didn't miss anything, and then he starts wheezing and shaking his head. It was the moment as soon as the Ballerina coach lady starts talking about like oh, is they had like a FaceTime where she's driving the Mustang in like I don't know, Belgium or that like northern town.
Yeah.
She FaceTimes her to talk about how she's feeling. Bathroom break. Came back, fighting John Wick, missed nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I asked my friend, he's like, no, she just re-explained like this afternoon. He's like, oh, she just re-explained her motivation to be in that town. I'm like, or they explain the name of the town and that everybody there's an assassin, which I gathered when the father and wife of a child started shooting her on a rooftop seconds later. You know, it was just like I feel like I have a 500 cinema IQ when it's like I can strategically pick a bathroom break. And part of my bathroom bit with the Mission franchise or the 7th movie was that there was no good point because it was all excellent. And in a movie like The Ballerina, again, like Nick would say, all action movies are the same. Like The Ballerina, I could pick 2 very comfortable action breaks. One of them was almost the part where she explained she's her sister. Glad I didn't, because I was like, I could tell there's going to be a monologue.
That was genuinely like comedic. Like that was fucking funny how bad that was.
My friend and I laughed and looked at each other. And again, also, because The Accountant 2 is on Amazon Prime. And we talked about that movie.
Are you getting Amazon money that I don't know about?
Daddy Bezos would say no. But no, the what I was going to get at too, because like I think like the way I talked about the Phoenician Scheme, where it's like, tip my nose at it, not interesting, not original enough. It's just more. And the way I talked about this movie, where it didn't deliver necessarily. Shea and I, at least me, my bar is not that high. Like The Accountant 2 was not peak cinema. It was just an enjoyable time at the movie theater with little expectation. And I think you and I largely liked it. It wasn't like a 5-star movie, but we largely enjoyed the experience. And I think watching The Ballerina, kind of similarly, the experience is lacking because no matter how much you try to separate your expectations, it's the John Wick follow-up, and it has some of that action, but it was just not fun. There was no levity in it, and it was just constantly trying to prove itself like the character, but not as romantic or thematic. So I'm saying The Accountant 2 is a better watch than Ballerina by a long shot. When the brain damage assassin has to fight the autistic accountant assassin, peak cinema. When the Ballerina has to dismember a dozen bodyguards and have a flamethrower duel, it's interesting, but the movie as a whole does not add up to anything greater than the parts of it sums. So,
yeah, I was gonna say the best part of The Accountant 2 is the line dancing sequence. But I agree.
That's my brother. Anyways.
On that note, if you're like Brandon and you go out for a bathroom break or you show up late to the movie and the lights are off, please remember not to blare your phone light to try and find your seat, because all of us can see it. You can figure it out without all the lights. Thanks very much for listening to our big rants, guys.